Welcome to Financial Planning. This is Diana Block, your online instructor. And this week in Financial Planning, we're going to talk about mutual funds, which is a continuation of our investing section. Last week we talked about investing in stocks and bonds, and the mutual fund discussion is a continuation of that. So you'll do some reading there. And then in the next chapter, it talks about retirement planning. And then the final chapter for this week refers to estate planning. And so in my video this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about estate planning and just bring out some highlights because I think this is an important topic for everyone. And a lot of people think that this is something that an older person needs to worry about or that a wealthy person needs to worry about. I don't have a lot. I'm just middle class, working person. So I don't need to worry about an estate because I don't have an estate. People think that way. Or they think, well, I've got a long time before that's a concern. And the fact is, we just don't know how long we're going to live. And also, we don't know when an accident could happen that would make us disabled or incapacitated. So we can't predict how long we're going to live. So this isn't just something that an old person needs to worry about. And also, when you consider family income and the size of your assets, a modest income family has even less to spare than a wealthy family. So it would be more important for a family of average or modest income to make sure that they are planning correctly for their estate, because they don't want anything to go to waste. They don't want anything tied up in court battles. They don't want anything to be paid in additional taxes that shouldn't have been, because they don't have as much to pass on to their heirs as a wealthy person. So it's actually more critical for an average, so to speak, income family to do some estate planning. And what happens is, if you don't have a plan in place for your estate, the state will do it for you. And depending on what state you live in and the situation as far as what assets you have, you may not like this plan the state has, and your heirs certainly may not like the plan that the state creates for you on your behalf. So without an estate plan, in general, if you become disabled and you own assets and you can't conduct business yourself because you have some mental or physical incapacity, and you don't have an estate plan to explain what you want to happen, if that were to happen to you, then the court is going to appoint someone who can sign for you. The court, not your family, will control how your assets are being used, how you're cared for. They're going to set up a conservatorship or a guardianship, and the exact details of that depend on your state. But it is going to be something your state is going to handle instead of your family if you don't appoint someone. And if your family members want to challenge that, it's going to be very expensive and time consuming, which time is a commodity that you can't really negotiate, because once it's gone, you don't have it anymore. You don't want your family to waste years trying to deal with a issue related to how to handle your care if you're incapacitated. Also, these public issues of estates are open to the public, so anyone literally could weigh in on how you should be cared for, or who should be selected to be your guardian. And your family or whoever you would have chosen had you made a plan will have to contend with all of that if you should become disabled. Now, if you die at your death and you don't have an estate plan, then your assets will be distributed according to whatever the probate laws are in your state. And again, it depends on your state, but no matter what state you're in, I'm sure you would rather make that choice than have the state do it for you. In most cases, if you're married or have children, then your spouse and children are going to receive certain shares of that. It's no longer in your hands to decide how much share each person has. They don't consider your personal situation or how long you've been married or if those are their children or any of that. And so that means that if you have a spouse, they might only receive a fraction of your estate, which might not be what your intention was. It might not be enough for them to live on. Or if your children are still minors, the court will control what their inheritance is. And then what if both parents were to die? There was some kind of a car accident. Then the court's going to appoint the guardian for those children, and you have no input in that because you're not there anymore. But think about how devastating that would make you feel to know that your children ended up somewhere that was not according to your wishes. So you have to make the plan. It's not just, again, about older people. It's not just about wealthy people. It's about the things that you own and the people that you care about, and not having them in a stressful situation because you did not plan ahead. It's already stressful to have lost you, or for you to have been in some disabling accident, and now they would have to deal with the state as well. So to get an effective estate plan, you can include any number of things. You could include instructions on passing on not just your assets, but actually your values. So think about how you want to distribute anything that you have. You may want to donate to certain causes. You may want to donate to scholarship funds as your legacy, and you have the option to do that if you make that decision ahead of time. You can give instructions for how you want to be cared for if you become disabled. You can determine whether you want to be put on life support and under what circumstances, and how you should be taken care of if you become disabled or incapacitated. You can be the one to name a guardian for your minor children if heaven forbid something happened to you. You can decide who manages their inheritance. If you have family members yourself that you care for that have special needs, and they depend on you to take care of them, and then something happens to you, you'll be able to decide in advance how you want that special needs family member taken care of. I would think that's something very important if you're in that situation. And then, just to be honest, I have a couple of adult children, so I know that some adults are irresponsible. I mean, at 19, 20 years old, would you want your son or daughter to suddenly inherit everything you've worked your entire life for? And maybe they're not as responsible as they will be in a few years. So you could decide how their inheritance gets dished out. Maybe you want to appoint your own guardian for them so that they get a small amount of their inheritance each year until they turn 30, for example, or something like that. You don't want to dump $400,000 maybe worth of life insurance on an 18-year-old who's just lost his parents with no supervision. Maybe they're not prepared for that. Some people might be, but some not, and then they run through it in a year. And you never know. So you know your child better than anyone, so you probably would be better off planning for how you want to manage that. And you can include your life insurance in your estate and your disability insurance, and explain how you want those items to be used. And if you own a business, you may want to provide instructions so that your business transfers to your child or some other person. Upon your death or retirement, you want to make sure that your business that you've worked your life building goes to the person or people that you intended, so that your legacy is preserved. You also want to minimize your taxes. We want to plan our estate with an attorney, a tax attorney, an accountant, so that we're going to minimize the taxes as these things transfer, and as much as possible goes to your chosen heirs. And remember, this is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time event. You should start off with a plan and review it periodically as your children grow up, as they mature, as your home gets paid off, as different things happen. You can most certainly update your plan, but what you don't want to do is need a plan and not have one, and it's too late to make one. So what you can do by having a good estate plan, to sum it all up, is you're just going to avoid stress for yourself now, thinking about what could happen, and avoid stress for others later when they're in a situation where they're already stressed out because of whatever has happened with you. You don't want them to also be stressed out by technical issues such as your assets and the funds and your business and who's going to take care of grandma and things like that. So don't wait. go ahead and put something in place now according to how your situation is right now. And as things change, change it, update it later on. This is going to give you and your family some peace so that you know that things that are important to you and important to them have been addressed. And this doesn't have to be anything super expensive. I mean, maybe if you're just a young family or a young adult and you're single even, this may just mean you're going to create a will. You're going to have some term life insurance to cover your funeral and certain other expenses, your credit cards, and maybe you're going to designate a power of attorney for your assets or any healthcare decisions. And that's it. That may be all that's needed. If you reach a point in life where you're very wealthy and you have businesses and vast estates, then you can of course update that. But if you are a college student or recent college graduate or a working class person right now, it doesn't have to be expensive or complicated to just put down the things that are important to you and make a plan for your estate. So make sure that you go through and complete the lecture review that's related to this video. Review all the other PowerPoints for the other chapters for this week. And if you have any questions about the assignments or requirements, I'll be in the discussion area all week to talk with you about these and other topics. And you can also ask questions in the general discussion forum or send me emails or call me if you choose as well. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to talking with you in the discussion.